Welcome to the Great Basin Prescribed Fire and Smoke Transport Briefing for Wednesday, January 31st. Over the last 1 to 2 weeks, we've seen precipitation and storms move across the Great Basin, mostly bringing precipitation to central and southern areas of the Great Basin, with the periphery of western, northern, and eastern areas seeing well below normal precipitation. Over the last 72 hours, the new snowfall again has been in some of those same areas, with the heaviest snowfall over parts of the higher terrain of southern Utah. Our snow depth is indicated on the right, and you can see from the percent of normal for our snowpack, we are generally below normal for all areas of the Great Basin, with the exception of parts of central and northern Nevada into southwest Idaho and the far southeastern areas of the Great Basin, which are near normal for the time of year. But the Sierra is well below normal and below 50% of normal. However, we will see some changes coming with the weather pattern, which will bring new snowfall to the Great Basin, which is certainly much needed for this time of year. The satellite loop shows a very large area of low pressure off the west coast. This will be our first storm moving in after very warm and dry conditions across the Great Basin. We have seen temperatures well above normal recently, and some areas have hit record temperatures, but again, that will be changing as this first storm system moves in, and this will open the door for additional storm systems to continue tracking across the Great Basin going through the next 7 to 10 days. So you can see here we are seeing the increase in cloud cover over western areas, and we will see that precipitation move in later today from west to east. So for later this afternoon, we will see that precipitation move into the Sierra and far western Nevada, although many areas might be getting shadowed over western Nevada downhill of the Sierra just due to the winds. So we will see an increase in winds, especially over western and southern Nevada. And you can see that on the transport winds. Again, those winds generally in the 40 to 50 mile per hour range, especially a little bit higher at ridge level, but again, mainly for the Sierra and the western half of Nevada. Mixing heights will be on the rise over western areas as that storm system moves in. Temperatures will remain warm for one more day across the Great Basin, with highs in the 50s and 60s in most areas. Relative humidity will be in the 30 to 40% range. As we move into Thursday, this first wave of the storm system moves into many areas of the Great Basin, spreading that cloud cover and precipitation further east, along with those gusty winds. So we will see improvements to our air quality and the inversions across the Great Basin that have been located in some areas. Again, that will start to break, especially by tomorrow as that storm system moves in. Transport winds will be on the rise, especially over central and southern areas of the Great Basin on Thursday, with those gusts generally in the 35 to 45 mile per hour range. We could see some higher gusts on the ridge tops, but not looking for anything much stronger than that down in the valleys. Mixing heights will be on the rise across the Great Basin, and temperatures will be on the decline. So we will see highs more in the 40s and 50s, seeing more of a 10-degree drop in temperature in some areas, and relative humidity as that system moves in will be on the rise with the clouds and showers. On Friday, this system moves through the Great Basin, still lingering precipitation over the eastern half of the area, and even some light snow showers into Nevada, but generally drier air temporarily moving in on Friday from west to east. And then dispersion still remaining good across most areas and not quite as strong over far eastern areas under the trough of low pressure, so still some inversions in the far east, but generally really no inversions further west. As we move into Friday, again, as that first system moves east and we are kind of becoming in between systems, the winds will decrease. Still breezy across the Great Basin, but not as strong as what we'll see today and tomorrow as that low pressure moves into the area. Mixing heights still relatively high with the exception of central and eastern Idaho down into northern Utah and Wyoming. On Friday, we will see temperatures again remaining cool, generally highs in the 40s or even 30s in some higher elevations. The only warm areas are in far southern Nevada, where we'll still see highs in the upper 50s. Relative humidity generally above 40%. The 3-day amount of precipitation with this first storm as it moves through will again provide precipitation to all areas of the Great Basin. The most notable areas will be in the Sierra, but also parts of southern Nevada that haven't really seen much precipitation, and also central Idaho. Again, around the periphery of the Great Basin that hasn't really seen much precipitation, we'll see some decent amounts of new rain and snowfall. As we move into Saturday, the next system starts to push in and mainly tracking further south, so it will be targeting the southern half of the Great Basin, still lingering cloud cover and maybe some light showers over far eastern areas with this trough that's moving through here the next couple of days, kind of hangs up over the Rockies. But again, that next system is heading for southern and central California on Saturday. Probably be much of a break for much of Nevada into western Utah with respect to precipitation on Saturday. Much of that will be moving in on Sunday. Still good dispersion across the region as these winds tend to pick up with this next system moving in. And then by Sunday is when the precipitation really starts to move into California, the Sierra, and the western half of Nevada. And then by Monday, tracks further east across the Great Basin. And by Tuesday, again, most areas seeing cloud cover and precipitation, at least in some fashion. Looking at the precipitation from Saturday through Monday, again, Saturday's kind of our break day. The next round moves in Sunday, Monday. So again, you can see that increase in precipitation again in the Sierra. So really good additions to the snowpack starting Sunday, Monday for the Sierra. And then even over southern Nevada, getting into some precipitation. Still lingering precipitation again with that first system in Idaho and Wyoming. But it's really going towards the middle of next week where we start to see that heavier precipitation in much of California and really target even southern Nevada, southwest Utah, areas that haven't seen much precipitation recently. And then the 7-day total precipitation, obviously heaviest in California and the Sierra, and not quite as much as you track further east. But even some areas of southern Nevada, central Idaho, and the higher terrain of Utah seeing that 1.5 to almost 1.25 or 1.75 of new precipitation, both in the form of rain and snowfall, depending on elevation. The 8 to 14-day outlook, taking us from February 7th through the 13th, shows that pattern really sticking around heading into mid-February with cooler and wetter conditions for the Great Basin, especially the southern half of the Great Basin, into Southern California and the Southwest. This is more typical of what we would see in an El Nino year, which is what we have been in for some time. But we really have seen some mitigating factors with El Nino, some atmospheric conditions taking away from the impacts of El Nino so far. But we are seeing that shift right now to what we would more typically see during an El Nino winter, which is, again, heavier precipitation down over the southern tier of the Great Basin and not quite as much precipitation up north towards the Pacific Northwest. So this, again, will be lasting at least for the next 7 to 10 days, and then we'll see what conditions do later in February. That concludes our webcast for today. Check back on Friday for the latest updates.